السلفي لابد أن يكون لغويا، سلفي غير لغوي تعبان.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه. This is lesson 8 in this series, the basics of Arabic reading and writing. So far we have learnt 26 letters from the Arabic alphabet. In today's class we are going to complete the remaining 3 letters from the Arabic alphabet. But before we begin today's class, let's quickly go over the letters that we have taken so far.
Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, Ha, Kha, Dal, Zal, Ra, Zam, Sin, Shin, Sad, Dad, Ta, Ra, Ain, Ghain, Fa, Qaf, Kaf, Lam, Mim, Noon, Waw. Waw, Noon, Mim, Lam, Kaf, Qaf, Fa, Ghain, Ain, Dha, Ta, Dad, Sad, Shin, Sin, Zal, Ra, Zal, Dal, Kha, Ha, Jim, Tha, Ta, Ba, Alif.
Okay, so let's begin today's class. Our first letter for today's class is Ha. Ha, which sounds like someone laughing. When someone laughs, they say ha 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 ha. Sounds very similar. And if you remember previously, we took a letter which sounds similar to this, but you have to apply more pressure when you push the air out. That was ha 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 ha. Sounds similar, but you have to apply pressure. But this letter here that we're taking today, you push out the air without pressure. So it comes out easy without any pressure. Ha. Okay, let's say it 5 times. Ha.
Ha,
Ha.
ha,
Ha.
ha,
Ha.
ha,
Ha.
ha.
In terms of writing, we're going to write ha using 2 steps, inshallah. 2 steps. Step number 1 is very similar to the way we wrote dal. When we wrote dal, we did this. But we're going to start with a closed end here. We're going to close it slightly here. Then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this. This is step number 1. Similar to dal, except that it's closed. It's more closed. طيب. Step number 1 is there. So we close slightly closed, then we do that. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to do this. That was step number 2. So step number 1 like that, and then step number 2 like that. This is ha. The next letter that we're taking after the ha is hamza. Hamza. And if it was easy for you to pronounce the ha, then this letter should be pretty straightforward, inshallah. Same starting sound. Ha, ha, hamza. Same starting sound. We're going to say it 5 times. Hamza.
Hamza,
Hamza.
Hamza,
Hamza.
Hamza,
Hamza.
Hamza,
Hamza.
Hamza.
The person's name is Hamza. It's spelt with a ha. But the letter, this letter that we're taking now, is called Hamza with a ha. Okay, bear that in mind. In terms of writing the Hamza, essentially the Hamza is the tip of the Ain, the head of the Ain. And if you remember how we did Ain last time, it was 2 steps. The step number 1 was like a closed C. So C will stop here, but we're going to close it slightly. So this was step number 1. If you remember, this was step number 1 when we did the Ain. And then step number 2 in Ain was this. Keeping it in line with here. We do this. And then we do this. Okay, this is Ain. Hamza, we just need the head. We just need the head. So we're going to cut this off. We're going to cut this off. This is Hamza. Hamza is essentially the head of the Ain. So we're going to do it in 2 steps. Step number 1. And then step number 2 is we're going to do here and then stop. Our final letter for today's class, which is going to be the final letter for phase 1 in the series, is the letter Ya. The letter Ya. And this sounds like the Ya when we say yat. Yat. So that's US English, yeah? US English, they give us a nice Ya sound when they pronounce yat. But according to British English, we say yacht, yacht. Okay, let's say it 5 times now. Ya.
Yeah.
Ya.
Yeah.
Ya.
Yeah.
Ya.
Yeah.
Ya.
Yeah.
In terms of writing, we're going to write the Ya using 3 steps. 3 steps. Step number 1 is going to start above the line. Ya is going to be a drop down letter. So we start above the line. We do this. This is step number 1. Step number 1 is this. This shape. It looks like a C, except that it's more open. With the Ain, we went up. But with this one, we go down. And we keep it in line, yeah? We keep it in line. So we start above the line, and then we go down. This is the step 1. Then step 2 is we curve it, and basically we're doing a noon. If you remember how we did noon, we're just going to do, imagine the noon, we started it off here, we're just going to finish it off here. So we curve it, and then we finish the noon. طيب, this is how we do the Ya. Step number 2 was from here. This is step number 2. Step number 3 now is we add the 2 dots. Okay? Ya, 3 steps. Step number 1 was that. From here, we finish it off with step number 2, and then we add the 2 dots to complete the Ya. Okay, let's say these 3 letters together now. Ha.
Ha.
Hamza.
Hamza.
Ya.
Yeah.
Ha.
Ha.
Hamza.
Hamza.
Ya.
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
What's this?
Hamza.
What's this?
Ha.
The homework is going to be to write 5 rows for each of these letters. 5 rows for each one of these 3 letters, making sure that we pronounce the letter every time we write it. We have to say it out loud correctly. Before we complete today's class, we'd like to give a brief history on the Arabic letters. The Arabic letters are categorized into 2 categories. We have the first category, and these are the letters that are pronounced and the letters which are used in speech. This category of letters is referred to as al-huruf al-hijaiyya. Al-huruf al-hijaiyya, the alphabet letters, or the letters al-mantuqa, which are pronounced. This is category number 1, and this category consists of 29 letters. 29 letters, and these are the letters that we've studied. The letters that we've taken, the 29 letters that we've taken, these are part of the al-huruf al-hijaiyya, the alphabet letters which we use in speech. The second category of letters are known as الحروف الأبجدية. الحروف الأبجدية. These letters are used in writing. These are the letters that we use in writing. And these letters that we use in writing consist of 28 letters. Okay, so why does the huruf al-hijaiya, those letters which are pronounced, why do they consist of 29 letters, whereas the huruf al-abjadiyya, the written letters, the letters used in writing, consist of 28 letters? Why is this? This is because previously the Arabs never had a separate letter to represent the Hamza. They never had a separate letter to represent the Hamza. Instead, if they wanted to represent the Hamza, they would use an alif or a waw or a ya, or they wouldn't use anything at all. They had 4 ways of representing the Hamza. This was the case up until a scholar by the name of Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 170 Hijri. The scholar rahimahullah, he came after seeing that this could be a cause for confusion for people who have entered into Islam and who are trying to learn the Quran. He introduced Hamza. He introduced the shape that we've taken today. And the reason why he chose this is because he saw that this Hamza, the pronunciation of Hamza, a, I, u, this is very similar to the Ain, or it's very close in its articulation point to the Ain. So he was saying and he was saying and he saw that it sounds very similar. So he took the Ain and cut off the head. He cut off the head of the Ain and used that as a representation of the Hamza, which makes it easy for people when learning the Quran to understand or be able to notice the Hamza. So it could be confusing sometimes. If you see a waw, you think, is this a waw or a Hamza? But if you see this sign of the Hamza on top of a waw, or you see this sign on top of a alif, or sometimes below the alif, or sometimes on top of a ya, then you know that this is a Hamza. In all of those cases, it's a Hamza. Okay, so we have 2 different ways, 2 different layouts for the Arabic alphabet. The Abjadiyya, al-Huruf al-Abjadiyya, which is the written alphabet, and we have the Huruf al-Hijaiyya. In terms of common day usage, then the Huruf al-Hijaiyya is more commonly used. This is why people are more familiar with this layout, alif, ba, ta, tha to the end. Whereas the Huruf al-Abjadiyya is rarely used, but it's still used in books. You might find it sometimes when the author is trying to list out a set of things. You might see him numbering it or lettering it using the Abjadiyya pattern. Hamza, ba, jim, dal. As we know, there's 2 main ways of numbering things on a list. You could use numbers or you can use letters. And sometimes if your list subdivides, so you have point number 1, which subdivides into several things, then maybe you have number 1, and then this number 1 subdivides into various letters, A, B, C, D, and so on. So this book here, which is called التطبيق النحوي by Dr. Abdul Al-Rajihi, this book has an example of what I'm talking about. So if you look at the lists here, he's listing some points regarding a principle. So here is point number 1, Hamza, a. Point number 2, b, ab. Then here, ja. طيب, and then the list continues on to the next page, and then he mentions the next point, jad, ha. So abjad ha. You see, this is the layout of the al-huruf al-abjadiyya. So this is used in common day listing of certain things or categories or points that fall under a list of things. Okay, so this is how the huruf al-abjadiyya are represented. They are represented and placed together in this order. This is the order they come in. 28 letters in total. Abjad, hawaz, hutti, kalamun, sa'fas, قرشت ثخذ ضضغ. And this is actually alif. It's supposed to represent alif because we don't have hamza in the al-huruf al-abjadiyya, if you remember. It's written with a hamza just to allow us to pronounce it. Otherwise, it's an alif. The second point of benefit that we want to mention is the huruf al-hija'iyya, the first group of letters, those letters that we've been taking, they were arranged in this way that we find them today by a scholar known as Nasr ibn Asim al-Laythi. Nasr ibn Asim al-Laythi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 90 Hijri. This scholar, rahimahullah ta'ala, he did two things. The first thing he did was he looked at these letters, these 29 letters that we use in our speech, and he noticed that some of them share or look exactly the same. So what he did is he grouped those letters that looked the same next to one another, which is why we have ba, ta, tha next to each other. Then we have jim, ha, kha next to each other. Then dal, dhal next to each other. Then ra, za next to each other, and so on. So he grouped these letters together according to their patterns and how they look like. Those letters which look exactly the same, he put them together. This is the first thing that he did. The second thing that he did is, back in those days, there was no such thing as dots. So ba, ta, and tha looked exactly the same. There was no way of differentiating between them for a person who did not know the Arabic language. So the second thing that this scholar did, Nasr ibn Asim al-Laythi rahimahullah, is he placed dots on the letters in order to differentiate them. So he put one dot under the ba. He put two dots on top of the ta. He put three dots on top of the tha. And he placed one dot here and there to differentiate between those letters which look exactly the same. So these dots that we have were introduced by Nasr ibn Asim al-Laythi rahimahullah ta'ala. So this is how it would have looked like. If you look here, this is supposed to be a noon. This is ammayu. This is a ya and a jim. Yuji, this is a ya, this is a ba. So a person who doesn't know how to read Arabic or doesn't know this, then it will be very difficult for him to decipher if it's a ya or ta or noon, because they are all written the same. The only difference is the dots. This is amman yujibul. It looks like mustarra, but it's actually mudtarra. إذا دعاه. ويا, this is meant to be a ya. This is meant to be a sheen. ويكشي, and this is meant to be a fa. ويكشف السوء. ويجعلكم أو ويجعلكم نعم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. The final thing that we want to mention is that you might have come across different qawaid, yani the qa'idas that are used to teach children or people learning the Arabic language, the Arabic alphabet. You might have come across different layouts. Some of them start with alif. Some of them start with an alif which has the shape of a hamza at the top. Hamza, yani the alif with the hamza on top. Yeah, this is one difference. Some of them start with an alif, which is just a straight line, the one that we've taken, and some of them start with an alif with a hamza on top. This is one difference. Some of them, they have lam alif. They have the addition of lam alif within the qaida. You might have come across mim, noon, waw, ha, hamza, or waw, lam alif, ya. Some of them, they have this letter, lam alif. Lam alif essentially is two separate letters, lam and alif. However, in these qa'idas which have lam alif, the reason why they have lam alif there is to represent the alif. The reason why they do this is because alif, from all of these 29 letters, has unique features. The alif has unique features in that the alif is always sakin. It doesn't take a fatha, kasra, or dhamma. It's always sakin. And it's always preceded by a fatha. These two features make the alif unique. Alif is always sakin and it's always preceded by a fatha. Whereas the other letters, they could be sakin, they could be mutaharrik. They could take a fatha, kasra, dhamma, sukun. They can be preceded by anything before it also. طيب. So if someone tells you to pronounce alif, yani pronounce alif, you will not be able to pronounce alif because it's sakin. How are you going to pronounce alif? It's not possible to pronounce alif, which is why we need to put a letter before it which has a fatha in order to pronounce the alif. So which letter are we going to which letter are we going to use to place before the alif in order for us to pronounce the alif? Are we going to put ba and say ba? Or are we going to use jim and say ja? Or are we going to use shin and say sha? So the scholars, they looked and they chose lam. They say lam is the most befitting letter for us to use. And the reason why they chose lam is in order to repay back the alif. Because there's a time where the alif is brought in, the shape of a alif is actually a hamza, but it's brought in the shape of a alif in order to accompany the lam and make it easy to pronounce. So when we say baytun, which means house, this is an indefinite noun. To make it definite, we add lam al-ta'rif at the beginning, lam al-ta'rif. So it becomes l-baytu. This means the house. But the Arabs, they never start with the sukoon. Unlike English or other languages, they don't start with the sukoon. So it's not possible for them to say l-baytu, which is why we bring the hamzatul wasl, al-baytu, and we say al-baytu. So because hamzatul wasl, which comes in the form of an alif, has been brought here to make it easy to pronounce the lam, it's only fair that we use the lam now that the alif is in need for it to come and repay back this favor. So this is why they said we're going to put lam alif, and we're going to have it like this. And in terms of when you're reading this type of qaida, you would say la. So you get to kaf, lam, mim, noon, ha, waw, la. This is how you pronounce the alif, la. In terms of making things easier, there's different people who have come and tried to make the alphabet more easier. So we have, for example, al-Qaida al-Nuraniyya, which has put these 29 letters together in a way which is easy for people to pronounce. So they've started off with alif. Alif is the first letter in the alphabet, and they've taken off the hamza. And the reason why they've taken off the hamza is because it's going to cause confusion for the student. So they've made it easy by just placing alif. And they've brought hamza later on by itself. And this is the way that we have been studying it. And likewise, because alif is mentioned in the beginning, we don't need lam alif. We're just learning alif by itself. In terms of pronouncing the alif in a word, that's going to come in the chapter of mudud, elongation. So for this reason, we have been following al-Qaida al-Nuraniyya in terms of the layout of the letters. But this is just to mention to you as a notice so that you're aware when you come across different types of qawaid, these qa'idas that are used. Some might have more letters and some might have less letters. So this is something to bear in mind, inshallah. To complete the benefit, let's learn how to write lam alif. Writing lam alif, we're going to do it in 4 steps. Step number 1 is to do the hilya, and this is the final letter with the hilya. We're going to add it to our list, inshallah. That's step number 1, the hilya. Step number 2 is we're going to do this. So hilya, step number 2 is this line. Step number 3 is the alif now. This is the lam. Step number 2 is another hilya. The alif that we're going to do here has a hilya. Step number 2. Then we're going to bring this alif like this, and then we're going to close like that. So we just do that and then do that. This is lam alif. 4 steps. Step number 1, step number 2, hilya, which looks like this, but with these kind of pens you can't really see. Yeah, something like that. Then step number 4. So now you have completed the 6 letters from the high-rise letters category, the list of high-rise letters. We had 5 previously. I've added lam alif. is part of the high-rise letters. So if ever you write lam alif, it should touch the above the line, yani the line above it, it should touch it. So we've completed our list of high-rise letters. Drop down letters, 18 in total. We have added ya, which makes it 17. If you count all of them, we have 17 letters. So that means there's one more. One more is going to come once we write or learn how to join the letters together. Once we learn how to join the letters together, that's when we're going to discover the 18th and final letter from the drop down letters. So we have 17 so far. Heavy letters, we've completed that. Decorated letters now, we added lam alif. And this is our 5th one. So we've completed the decorated letters. The 5th one is lam alif. In terms of reference for this brief history lesson on the Arabic letters, then most, if not everything that I've said has been taken from this book here, which is called Hilyatut Tilawa. This is a book that is currently being taught by our brother and teacher Haydar al-Hatimi in Markaz Uthman ibn Affan. A very beneficial book in the studies of Tajweed. It's written by Dr. Rihab Muhammad Mufid Shaqiqi, who is from the students of Ayman Suwaid or Ayman Rushdi Suwaid. If you go to page 77 up to page 82, inshallah, you come across all of the benefits that were mentioned in this class. And with that, we come to the end of phase 1 of this series. I hope to see you in phase 2, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.